SourceFed Movie Club, it's me, Jenny, aka ClassyLibrarian, and this week's movie was Top Gun. And this is one of those films that, if you caught a scene of it on TV, even for 5 seconds, it's immediately recognisable. Because it's one of those ones that gets used over and over again, whether or not it's parodying it or making reference to it. It's such a classic film piece that you can recognise it from just the shots. There's the shots at the beginning where it's silhouetted aircraft carrier, and everyone's watching the planes go off, and there's lots of work going on and stuff like that, and that is so classic. And then every single shot of the airplanes in the sky, or the just any of the cast, because of their so 80s looking with the 80s hair and the 80s like leather coats, you can pretty much recognise this film regardless of whether or not you've seen it before. I've never seen this film before, but I immediately knew exactly what I was getting into. And adding to that, the plot is relatively predictable. If you've got a hero, the sidekick, best friend, the heroine, and the rival, and then there's a couple of adult mentors thrown in as well, and if you add that the hero is cocky and there's life and death involved, you've pretty much already got the plot. I think this film does really well for what it's got. It clearly is a classic. I think it would have been extraordinary if you had no idea whatsoever about the plot and hadn't really watched this sort of film before. I think people who have a great knowledge of aeronautics would enjoy this film more when you see all of this plane manoeuvring and all of this great stunt work. I've got to give points to the people who did all the plane work. They did an amazing job, but to an untrained eye, watching planes just do their thing over and over again, because there's a very limited amount of things you can do with shots when you're either inside a plane looking at a pilot or outside a plane looking at them manoeuvring. It is repetitive because there's simply not so much you can do with it. You can bring the shot back, you can bring the shot closer, but that's literally all you can do. So it's very hard to keep up the interest when you are so limited to shots. The music in this is very 80s as well, so even if you're, as I said, you can immediately recognise this film via the visuals or via the music or via the characters. Tom Cruise is obviously very recognisable now. As I said, the shots are kind of repetitive, so if you're playing a drinking game via shots, as in camera shots, not as in drinking shots, I'd recommend watching this with friends and watching it as a drinking game. But if you're playing it via every time there's a shot of a plane in the air or a shot of a pilot, you will die by the end of this film. I was watching this film suffering from a mild case of heat stroke, and so I did a drinking game with water with every time there was a shot of 2 planes in the air, and I felt so much better after this film. But I definitely wouldn't recommend drinking for that part. There are some scenes, given that this is set with active men doing active things and in hot environments, there's a lot of sweaty men involved, so there are a lot of scenes that, although perhaps unintentionally came off as they did, there are obviously some stereotypical homosexual undertones that could be derived from watching this film, which I think at the time, maybe not so much nowadays, it seems very likely to be parodiable. And that's about it really. I would probably recommend watching this film once because it is that classic that you have to watch once. In of itself, watch it with friends, have a drinking game, don't do it by shots, there's a limited number of shots, and just enjoy it. Enjoy this slightly dated, slightly campy flick. You can predict the plot from A to B, and it's quite enjoyable, and that's about it really. Sorry this video is up a bit late. As I said, yesterday I was suffering from heat stroke, so I wasn't exactly in the best mood, and I was wondering, subscribers, would you like me to start editing these? I do like having the one takes. It makes it a bit easier to get them out to you. It kind of challenges me to get as many thoughts as possible into a very short period of time without having to, having the opportunity to edit in stuff and edit out stuff. It just means sometimes I forget a thought that I had previously or stuff like that, and sometimes I'm a bit mumbly. So I'd like to know your opinion. Would you like me to start editing it? Would you like me to edit one of my videos, or would you just like me to keep it as it is? I'd love to hear your opinion. I am always down in the comments, and I will see you guys next week. Bye guys.